Hi everybody and welcome to my studio. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel. My name is Lonna and I am an acrylic artist. Today's class will be a two-part video lesson and we're going to be painting a beautiful design. Let me switch over and show it to you. This is Saint Nick. He is painted with Deco Art Americana acrylic paints. And this is a surface on my website. This is my new bulb ornament plaque. And I created the design specifically for this shape, but you can put Santa on any surface that you have or that you like. He was so much fun to paint, and as I was developing him, his just personality just came out. So cute. And I love how the blue bulbs around Santa just frame him out beautifully. He is just adorable. So if you are ready to paint Saint Nick with me on video 1, let's grab our paints and supplies and let's get started. Alright, to start this project, first of all, I have applied a coat of multi-purpose sealer with my damp 2-inch foam roller, and now I am going to apply a couple of coats of just black paint on here. And I'm using Deco Art Americana paints, and this is lamp black. So just roll on a couple of coats. I have some paper down under here to protect my surface. You can also keep handy a mat that you use only for painting on, like one of those oven mats. And then you don't have to worry about having paper to throw away. We recycle, but you know, if you want it a little bit easier, just grab one of those mats. They sell them everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to let this get dry. I'm going to apply a second coat, and then we're going to get our pattern on. Okay, I've got my 2 coats on. It is dry, so now I'm going to take my line drawing here, and the end of his beard here lines up down here pretty much, and he's got a little space over here between his ball, but by the time we paint that in, it may go all the way to the edge. So I'm going to tape this off. Actually, I'm going to see. I have my lines up here for my... See how I drew it on here. I drew him on here. To fit like that. So right there. Okay, I'm going to tape this down right here. We're going to use some gray or white, some white graphite paper and put it underneath here. Okay, we're going to take a stylus and we're going to trace our lines. We need our hat line, our ball, and our trim on our hat. And we don't need the nose or anything like that right yet. We do need the eyes. And you can go ahead and draw the eyes in. You need to know where his beard is going. You know it's going all the way down to this curved part down here. And he'll have some hair coming out here, but we don't really need to know that. As far as his nose and stuff, and actually you don't really need to put the eyes in yet because we have to paint all of the flesh color in here first. So yeah, the nose is not so important. You know, you might do it like that so you know where it's at. You know that the mustache comes up here and he'll have some hairs coming right there. So we know all the area that we need to cover in with some skin color. But you really, at this time, since we're just base coating, you do not need to put your eyes in. So I'm going to go ahead and erase mine off here. I'm just going to fold my paper up because I'm going to want to put my pattern, lay it back down to put his facial features in. And so I want to keep that tape on there, keep my pattern up here so that I can keep it lined up where I need it to go. So now we are ready to start adding some paint. Alright, my flesh color is going to be Natural Buff. It's my favorite skin tone color of Deco Art. So we'll put some of that out. Grab a brush, it can be a flat brush, it can be an angle brush. I keep water on my palette over here. I use a misting bottle, and I mist the entire right side of my palette. So we have all this nice clean water right here, and you know, a lot of times you'll just need a drop or two on your brush, you know, to add a little bit to your paint. So you don't need to put a whole bunch of water out there. Alright, so the skin color will take probably 3 coats. Let's not get heavy-handed with these coats. So you've got your water here, mix a little bit of water in it. I'm going to lift this up so I don't have a glare. After I get my base coats on, we will put it up on my easel. So we can see that the mustache is right there. I want to come down over where the mustache is, paint where the nose is. We want this skin tone to be behind his hair, his beard, and everything. So we're just going to bring it out as far as we need to. We're going to let it dry. It is definitely going to require probably 3 coats on there, okay? So while that is drying, we will paint in his hat. And I am going to paint it in with, okay, I've got Wild Berry and Tuscan Red both on my palette. Tuscan Red is too transparent. So I'm going to mix these two together. Just get this pretty pinkish red color. This is just an undercoat here, so we don't have to worry too much about it. A little bit more of that berry color. Go out to your lines and you can cover those lines up. If you don't cover them up, we can erase them. But I'm going to work out there and cover them up. Normally I don't do that. I usually paint right up to them and let them... Whoa! That's a lot of paint there. Ooh, man, that is still a lot of paint. We do not want ridges in our paint. No, 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 no. We want nice, smooth coats. Alright, we'll let this dry, and then we'll apply a couple of coats of just Tuscan Red. I put enough paint out on my palette for probably 3 or 4 designs. You don't need that much paint out. I got a little carried away. not going to worry about his beard right now. That is something we'll work on later. The fur on the hat, I'm going to wait till I get this all dry. This is dry, so I can apply a second coat of my flesh tone on here. I'm going to thin it down with a little bit of water. Oh, maybe that's too much water. A little bit more paint in there. And just let it kind of, you know, drag and fade away down here. Don't make a hard line down here. We don't want any complete stops there. And that's still not quite covering, so we'll have to put another coat on there. And my hat is not quite looking. I want it to dip down here, I think. I want to bring it, maybe right here, bring it down a little bit. This is my design process right here. I mean, I like the way that I've drawn it. So maybe it's this part here on the skin that I need to adjust. I just need that one really high place on here. Oops, wrong paint. I need to be in the flesh color here. So I'm thinking maybe a little bit smoother here. I'll just have that one spot there. I do want that to come down though. Man, I'll squirt out enough paint here for 5 or 6. I'm just going to put my black back in there a little bit. I want that little bit of dip in there, so let me erase this because that's distracting me now. That looks better. We can adjust most of that when we paint in our fur. Okay, my hat is dry now, so let's get a coat of just Tuscan red on here. Okay. And it will take a couple of coats of this Tuscan red to get on here. I'm thinking I'm going to stencil on his hat. I did an old world Santa a couple years ago. I usually try to make a new Santa pattern every couple of years. And I had a good time drawing this guy out. He was a lot of fun. More playful. My last one was more of a old world Santa. And I like to feel like I grow a little bit more each year. So hopefully this one will look a little bit more realistic as we work through it. Okay, that's going to need another coat on there. My skin tone is dry. I'm flinging red paint everywhere. I have to clean off my mat here. And let's put this in here and we'll get it dry. And I'll probably go off camera. Oh, okay. I'll probably go off camera and apply another coat of red on my hat here. And we really don't have to be too extra neat up here as well. I mean, it needs to kind of go underneath the fur a little bit, so you can be a little messy up that way as well. We don't need to have anything perfect here. Perfection is not acceptable. So yeah, we'll just bring some of that up so it will be underneath the fur. We don't know how our fur is going to look. We want to make sure there's no breaks in that. Okay, that's probably good for the face. So I'm going to get it dry, apply my last coat on my red, and then we'll transfer our line drawings onto our face. And I'm going to decide if I want to stencil on the hat or maybe do some stenciling on the background. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Okay, my paint is all dry here, so we want to put our face features on now. So I'm going to use some gray graphite. You want to try and find a piece that's kind of worn a little bit, doesn't have a lot of graphite left on it. But if you get it too dark, we can certainly erase it back. And now we're going to put in the eyes. And I might make that eye just a touch bigger. And we'll put in where the nose is going to go. Make sure we have our mustache in here where it's going. And the mouth should still be there, not covered up. And these are just some basic lines here. I'm going to make my eye just a tad bigger. I didn't quite get on my line like I wanted to, so I'm going to redo that. It looks a little bit better. Alrighty, I have my lines on my face. You don't want them to be too dark. I've got them a little bit darker than they really need to be. That's for your benefit, so you can really see where I'm going. I'll try to come back and erase them back a little bit after I get some paint on here, as long as I haven't gotten paint on them already. So I think I want to stencil on his hat just to make it a little more fun. You can stencil in the background as well. Totally up to you. Or you can not stencil at all. Your option. So I have this snowflake stencil. This is available on my website, and I think I'm going to use it. And I'm going to use Napa Red and Soft Black and blend them together to make this really dark, rich red. So I'm going to use my stencil brush and just grab these two colors and work it into my brush, just a little bit of each color. Maybe a little bit more of the red. Work that in. And now I want to remove paint from my stencil brush because I don't want tons of paint on here. And then you can just, let's see if this is going to show up. Yeah, it's a nice little subtle snowflake in there. I'm not worried about getting it into the background because we can touch that up because it's just a black background. I'm not worried about getting it here because we haven't painted this in yet. So I just want you to go throughout your hat and put some snowflakes on here if you want them on. Don't feel like you have to put them on, but I think they're going to be a very fun addition to our design here. Whew. I had a lot of paint on my brush for that one. That one's pretty dark. Okay, I have to make sure that dries good before I try and put a snowflake beside it because it is so dark. I think this is going to just make this project so fun. And see, I got into where the banding is, but that's okay because we are going to We haven't painted that area yet. So, you know, just move your stencil around, get some nice fun stenciling on here. I might even try this little one here. Now I'm just using a 1/4 inch stencil. Let's put one in here. Then when I'm done, I'll just go to my sink, put a little bit of hand sanitizer on here, use the stencil brush, and I'll clean the stencil and the brush at the same time. Very gentle pressure when you're cleaning your stencils. You don't want them to get wrinkled up in the tender areas. You know, the more thin areas on the stencil. I think this is going to be a really fun hat here. A little bit more paint. Get into my brush, tap some off on a paper towel, dry paper towel. We're using a dry paper towel. And let's put a little one up here. And try to see which one would be best down here. Grab a couple more smaller snowflakes in here. And remember, we're going to put our fur on here, so it's going to fluff up a little bit and cover up a little bit of that. And let's put one more up here. And I feel like we need a little piece of a snowflake here. Let's go down to this small one here. Okay, I think that's plenty of snowflakes on there. So I did get paint in my background, not a big deal. So I'm just going to take my black paint and touch up the background real quick so it can be drying. And then while it's drying, I'm going to go clean my stencil because I don't want my paint to dry on my stencil. It's not a problem if it does, because you know, you still just go to your sink and clean it with some hand sanitizer, some rubbing alcohol, something that has high alcohol content in it, and that will help remove it. So I'm not going to worry about through here because we haven't put any of that on yet. And I think while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and paint my topper in. So I want my topper to draw a line for it. It's going to come right across here. And we're just going to paint that in with some gray. We're just going to mix this on our own. You do not have to get another color of paint here. So we're just going to take some black and white and make a light gray. And then we'll just paint it in with 2 coats. So we'll be able to add our details in when it's ready. I'm going to keep this from spinning for a second here. And just a couple of coats here is all it's going to take. Get that based in. And any place that you don't feel like it's got the right curve or anything, touch up with your black. It's just black paint in the background, remember? Okay, so I'll let that dry. I'll put a second coat on. I want everything to be dry. I'm probably going to have to touch up one more time on my background here where I got a little bit of the red color out past here. Right here, it didn't quite cover. But the good thing is it is just some black paint. Okay. Okay, everything's dry now. While it was drying, I cleaned my stencil, hand sanitizer, and used this brush to clean it off, and then I took the same thing with some hand soap and washed it off and completely rinsed it and dried it. It is good to go. So, cleaning your stencil right after you use it cleans it up the easiest, but you can clean it after the paint has dried on there for a while. It just takes a little bit more hand sanitizer, a couple of times doing it. Still don't scrub incredibly hard because you have all these delicate little pieces in here that could get bent if you scrub too hard. Okay, so let's start working on the face now. I am going to draw a line on the hat so I can remember that we're going to have a wrinkle there. You can have some wrinkles coming, you know, into the where the ball is if you would like. A couple of like folds coming in there. Optional completely. But I think that's the only wrinkles that I'm going to plan on having in his hat. I want to keep it a little bit more basic. So we want to start painting in the eyes. And I'm going to take some white and I'm going to put a little tiny bit of turquoise blue on my palette and a little bit of natural buff. Let me spritz my palette here. All dried up. Alrighty. Okay, so for the eyes, we're going to need a small round brush. So I use a 1 round. And I'm going to zoom in on the eyes a little bit here. Okay, so the outside part of the eye. Now if it's easier for you, you can paint the whole eye in, then come back and redraw the circle on here if you would like. But I'm going to paint around my circle. So you do whatever is easiest for you. So the white of the eye is not 100% white. So I'm going to take my white and mix a little bit of our flesh color in there. Get some of the moisture out of my brush and a tiny little bit of blue in there. So we're not having a pure white part of the eye, and I know I'm going to have to mix more up. My white is incredibly thin, so I might have to grab a different bottle of white. And we're going to paint this in around the eyes. Okay, the eye itself, we're going to take some of our blue and white and mix it together and make a light blue. This is just a laying of some colors. It may not be the final color of blue that it ends up being when I put my second coat on, but we're just getting placement in here right now. Or, you know, kind of guiding us where we want to go. Okay. I want those to dry really good because I want to erase the circle here where the eye is and erase back some of the outline of the eye. I'm going to go down here to the nostrils and take my soft black, and I'm going to mix a little bit of my flesh color in here. Again, this is just for the first layer of paint for placement. And so we want the nostrils to be a little darker here. And I'm going to go ahead and paint the lips in down here with some wild berry, if I can get the bottle open. Goodness gracious. And we're painting on black, so I think I will mix some of my flesh color in here. So I've got my flesh color here and my wild berry. This will make a lighter color, but that flesh color should make it a little bit more opaque, so we don't have to come back. I'm gonna take it up into the mustache so that we're sure that the mustache will cover. And he's got a nice fat little lip down here. And it's always going to look funny until you get other parts in there, so okay. We're looking pretty good here. Okay, so I erased back some of my lines here. I'm going to erase back a little bit more. Where I can't erase is where I got paint on the graphite lines, and it's not going to come off. So we know where we need to get our paint to cover our graphite lines. So I'm going to do my mix again for the eyes. For the white of the eyes. And I really like to take my time on my eyes and do as many steps as I can. This area right here will actually not end up being this color, but for now we'll just paint it in so that we have a value in there of something. I'm going to wipe my brush out and grab blue and white and paint the eyes in here. A little bit of water there in my paint so I can. Needs to be a nice flowy consistency when you're trying to make these circles. So just take your time. Do not try and rush these little circles. I like to outline generally and then fill in. Check and see if I have my eyes, the irises of my eyes, pretty close to the same size. This one is a little bit bigger over here. So I'm going to come back with my color that goes around it and try and take that down just a touch. And they look a little bit closer to the same size now. So I'm going to redo the nostrils as well. And that was the mix of soft black. I would say 3 soft blacks, maybe 4, depending on how wet your brush is, to 1 natural buff. And put the nostrils in again. And then we'll add our lip back in with a little bit of that mix. You can add a little bit more of the wild berry into it this time. That's the natural buff and wild berry mix. And we have his lip on there. So that is looking good. Alright, so there's a little area on each side of the white of the eye that we do not want to be totally white. So we're going to take our natural buff, a tiny little bit of our wild berry, maybe just a tiny bit of soft black, just a tiny bit. Make this darker flesh color. I'm not sure that's going to be dark enough yet, but I'm going to make a little bit more. Be careful adding the soft black. It can get it too dark too quick. We're going to put a little bit of this in here. I want to add a little bit more of the flesh color in there. And we're going to put a little bit back here. Whites of the eye are generally not white. So I'm going to make a pupil in his eye. Try to make them about the same color. I'm going to put the first layer in with some soft black. Actually, I think I'll mix soft black and lamp black together. And be careful, your lamp black can take over. So you just want to draw a circle in here. Stay up on the tip of your brush. And again, we want this to be a nice circle. And I want his pupil to be just a little bit bigger. I'm going to add a tiny bit of water to my paint so it will flow off of the tip a little bit easier. And if you do not feel comfortable hand painting in the pupil, you can use an Identa pen and draw your circle in and fill it in with the Identa pen. Oops, that got a little big. Take a damp brush, I'm going to clean that up right there. And then repaint that. A little bit more moisture in my brush. Take your time. That one got a little big there. I'll grab my blue mix and touch that back up. Looking closer to the same size now. Let me take a look here. Those are pretty close, so I'm going to call it good on those and not worry too much more about them. Okay, so let me grab a liner brush now. I'm going to erase my lines that I put out here. I think I want to darken that out there a little bit. Go back to my round brush. And more of the flesh color and a little bit of pink. Just continue to touch up any areas that you feel need it. Okay, I want to add some detail lines in here in my eyes. And I'm going to use crisp blue. If you don't have crisp blue, you can use bright blue, some kind of bright blue. And I'm going to thin a little bit with some water. I'm using my detail liner here, and we're going to put some little lines around the eye. Make sure you're following the circle here. Do not make them go weird directions. You need to follow around the circle of the eye. Okay? I'm not worried about getting it in the black. I'm going to go and touch up the black of the eye. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to do a little highlight on these with some Snow White. Just along these lines here. Again, I'm not worried about getting in my black because I can touch that up. We're just going to do it around the bottom, like 1/3 of the eye. Okay, now you can touch up your iris. That's that soft black and lamp black mixed together. So it doesn't make the black quite, it doesn't make it a pure black. Again, if you're using an Identi-Pen, you can just make sure your paint is dry, because you do not want to get wet paint in your Identi-Pen, because it won't work after that. And then just touch up in there. Okay, so we're going to actually float inside of these eyes here. I know you're thinking, what? Oh my gosh. So we're going to take our bright blue, and I'm side loading a very small chisel brush. This is a size 6 chisel brush. And I want to make sure it stays just on the corner of that brush. Touch my paper towel, and we're going to, up on the edge of the brush here, just lightly float some color in here. We'll do some on this one. We're just doing the bottom of the eye. Okay, I definitely need to touch up my black again. I'm going to grab a smaller brush here. Didn't quite get my white lines covered up. Okay, my eyes are starting to take good shape here. We're going to take some Snow White on a small round brush or a detail liner. Oops. And we're going to tap some Snow White on each side of the eye. Just some little taps and pats. Just on each side of the eye. We don't want to fill the whole eye up. We're just doing on each side of it. I'm going to take my detail liner while that dries and thin down some of my crisp blue with some water. And I'm going to add a little bit of black to it to make it a darker color. And I'm going to outline my eye. And this again is something you can do with a very fine-tipped marker, as long as it is one that will not bleed if you put more paint or water on it. Take that color and float it along the bottom of the eye. And I think we'll have to add our little highlights back in there, because that really took our highlights down. So I'm going to grab my white and just put a few little highlights in there. we're going to shade on the eye in just a minute here. And you can outline your pupil with a black marker, which a lot of times I will do that at the end of my project, depending on how my eyes end up looking. Okay. Okay, we're going to shade across the top of the eye. I'm going to use this small chisel brush again, and we're going to use some black here. We don't want very much black on our brush, so if you get too much, just wipe it out. We want this to be really sheer, so I'm getting just a small amount. I can repeat it if I need to, but I certainly don't want to try and remove this if it doesn't, if I get it too dark. Okay, we're going to go across the whole top of the eye with this. And down here on the front just a little bit, I'm going to tap that with my finger. This is going to start pushing the eye back into the socket a little bit. Do it here. And darken this one a little bit. We're going right over whole eye, the top of it. Okay, let's add a little bright white highlight in here in his eye. I think that's going to help a little bit. Erase where I got a little bit out of line there. And let's just take some Snow White, and we're going to put a sparkle of white here, maybe a little bit bigger, and here. You want them to be in the same place on each eye and about the same size, so don't let them get too crazy big. We can come back and brighten, you know, maybe put a little one at the top, but for now we're just going to leave it right there. We need those to get completely dry. Okay, if your lines for your nose are too dark, let's erase them back right now and get them a little bit brighter. I'm going to erase this line here because I don't really need it on there. We're going to start adding some pink to the cheeks here. So we're going to need a small scruffy type brush. And it needs to be dry. We're going to need our dry paper towel again. We're going to get some fresh wild berry out. And load your brush with that color. And then offload. We don't want hardly any paint when we're blushing cheeks. Okay? We're going to blush up the cheeks and the nose. Okay? So we're going to start here, very, very soft pressure, and begin working in a circular motion. Super crazy soft because you don't know how much paint is on your brush, and if you give too much pressure, you're going to have a really super hard line in there, and you're not going to be happy. If you ever get more paint than you want, then you want to grab a second brush and go back in and scrub with your flesh color that you base coated in. So we want to do the nose as well. Make sure you're doing it in a round circular motion. We're doing this ball part of his nose right there, and his cheeks. His cheeks are going to go all the way down to where his mustache is. Okay. We're going to put a little bit of this up here above the eye. Okay, I'm still just using this same brush. I still got plenty of paint in here. As you start running out of paint, you can start scrubbing a little bit harder, but remember to do soft pressure when you start. I'm going to put a little bit across the forehead, and now I'm definitely running out of paint here. I'm really pushing hard now because I don't have hardly any paint left in my brush. And we're just scrubbing in a little bit of color. I think I'll make his cheeks a little bit darker, so I'm going to load and offload. Remember, very, very, very soft pressure. Super crazy soft. I'm going to keep the majority of the color this time down here close to his mustache and keep it bright right down here. The ball of his nose. Remember, we're doing a circular motion here. And the ball of his nose bright. I'm going to put some above the eyes. And along the forehead. Okay. He's looking pretty rosy there. We may come back and repeat that or do some floating. I think I might want it to be a little bit brighter on his cheeks for sure, and probably a little bit brighter on his nose. Sorry, I'm looking at my line drawing to see where I have color. I think I'm going to go one more time on the cheeks, so we can go to a different color here and get a little bit brighter red on here, but I think I'll go one more time with this wild berry. And if it's not quite getting me the brightness that I want here, I'm going to grab a different red and put another red on top here. Right here, I want to concentrate that bright. So this is like the third layer. So it's building up a little bit more paint here. And I still want to put a little bit more up here. Okay, that is looking pretty good. We'll probably bring this side of the mustache up a little bit higher to match this one, but when we paint it in, we will adjust that. But he's looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and wash this out. If it's the only one you have, you can clean it out with some hand sanitizer because that will dry really quickly. If you have others, you can go ahead and wash it out with some water. Right, let's start adding some shading on Santa's face here. And I'm going to mix my skin color with just a little bit of sable brown. Too much moisture. To just darken up that flesh color a little bit. I'll start out light on these colors. I'm going to try not to go over my pencil graphite lines that are on here so that I can erase them back later. We're going to go around the nose here. And that one is really dark there, so I think I might take some of my base color and settle that down in there just a little bit. You just want the tiniest bit of that sable brown in there. We're going to create an eyelid up here. And we can't erase that pencil line, that graphite line, because we've already dry brushed over it. So now I'm going to be up on the chisel of my brush, and I'm going to create some wrinkles coming out from the side of the face here. And we want to create a little bit of a wrinkle under the eye here. Just a nice soft little float of color here. We're not making it wide at all, so don't. I'm kind of staying up on the tip of my brush, letting it do its thing there. Need to get some more water on my palette here. We want to go underneath the eyebrow. Brush mix a little bit more here. Just a tiny bit of that sable brown. Let's not get wild and crazy with that. Underneath where the eyebrow is going to go. I'm going to go a little bit next to the nose right here. Go along the nostril here. We're going to highlight out there. And I want to bring a little bit more of this into the corner here of the eye. So where it comes over from the nose to the eye, we want to darken that a little bit, really create a little bit of a shadow in there. Just brush mixing some more. Small amounts of that sable brown, okay? Don't get too much. Use your finger. Pat that down. Keep it from getting too dark. Alright, I'm going to mix some more on my brush, and I'm just using a 3/8 inch angle brush here. I'm going to go up underneath the hat here, where the hat's going to be. And we can come down just a little bit because we haven't painted our hat in yet, so our fur in yet. So we can come down a little bit onto the forehead. Okay, let's make some lines on our forehead here. Okay, again, I'm just going to take the chisel of my brush. I need a little bit more sable brown in there to go over that red that we put in there. A little tiny bit more. Just sneak up on that. Don't just put a few lines up there. Let's not don't get wild and crazy here. We're going to put the eyebrow up there, so if we want to add some more, you know, as we build the eyebrow, we can. I'm going to shade I'm going to grab a little bit of water and really work that into my brush, because I want to put just a little bit of shading on this side of the nose. And maybe Santa has a couple of worry lines up here. We'll tap those back, give him a couple of worry lines. Okay, I really need this to be needs just to be a little bit darker down here. So we can come back in and darken all of these areas. And I think I'll just do a little bit on each place that I did it. And not do the whole entire thing again, like especially underneath the eye here. I do want to darken this area right here. And right here. Okay, and we'll probably have to go along underneath here a little bit and just redo it a little bit more. I'm going to come along this side of his face a little bit. The fur of the hat's gonna come down to here. And then he'll have hair coming out over here on this side and this side over here, so we won't really see much of that. So he's looking pretty good. That's pretty good for our shading. Now remember, you're using the base color, the flesh color, and you're mixing tiniest bit of sable brown in there, okay? It's really just a small amount. If when you apply it, it looks really dark, then you want to come back and add a little bit more of that natural buff into the mix until you can get it a little bit lighter. We don't want his face to look dirty. We just want to look like he's got wrinkles. You know, he's a jolly guy. He's going to have a lot of wrinkles. So that part is pretty much done for me for now. We're going to get ready to highlight onto those places we just shaded. All right, we're going to begin highlighting on the face now. And we are going to mix our natural buff, which is our skin base color, and some white. It's a lot of white, so how about 2 natural buff to 1 white? We don't want to get too bright too quick. I'm going to see if I can erase some of my lines off of here now. You know where our eyebrows are going. So I want to erase as much as I can off of the nose here. And then we're going to take this mix and we're going to highlight on the outer edge of the nose and up the nose. And this is all on the right side if you're looking at it. 2 natural buff, 1 white. This will be just a subtle highlight to begin with. Let's go ahead. I know we shaded down here, but I think it's going to need a little bit of a highlight on there. We're going to add more red down there. Okay, and we want to highlight on the lines that we put under the eye. And I'm up on the tippy toe of the brush here. And we're going to go, oh, that's a lot. I don't want that much. We're going to go on the, oh my goodness, I'm laying it in thick, but we don't want it in there thick. Touch back with your finger on the wrinkles. Completely covered that one up. You can get a detail liner out if you need to for that stuff. Let's do a little bit on the top of the wrinkles up here. A little bit of a highlight. You don't have to go down the whole entire wrinkle, just, you know, kind of a hit and miss thing. And then on the areas on the nose there. We're going to come back and brighten that now. So that was 2 natural buff, 1 Snow White. Now we're going to do an equal mix. And we're going to come out here on the outside of the nose here and just in the middle part. And I'm going to walk this over into the nose. Okay, I need to shade behind the top of the nose there. I forgot to do that, but I will come back and do it. Okay, this is 1-to-1 mix. And we'll do a little, oh, that's too much paint in my brush here. Do a little bit in these areas. Right underneath the eye there. And then a little bit on our wrinkles. Just kind of hit and miss right there. Let me shade behind the nose, the nostril here real quick. That's our natural buff and a little bit of sable brown. And we'll do a little bit here. So that means we're going to have to bring this side of the nose in a little bit more. Oh, not that far. That was crazy. Something is not quite right here, so let me do some adjusting on the nostril. Need a little drop of water here. Re-highlight the nose there and highlight on this here. Reshape the nostril, and then we'll shape the ball of the nose a little bit. I'm going to want to make the whole nose red here, I think. Go back to my shading color here. I've got it way too dark. Ooh, too much white. Whoa, way too much white. I gotta figure out the ball of the nose here. Just a little bit of shading on there. I really got that up a little too high, I think, so I'm going to erase that. white eraser, a little bit of water. That's all you need. I'm going to come back in with my flesh color and paint this line out because I'm not happy with how it looks. And I'll try to reshape that nose again. I think I'm going to have to draw it on there because I'm having a little bit of hard time to... Oh, I can see. I looked at my line drawing. I can see where this needs to come in more here. That's gonna make it look much better. A little bit darker right through there. And then we'll come back with our highlight. We're going to want to make this, I'm just going to use the base color so I can get it shaped nice. We got to come in with our red and really brighten up his nose. And I really lost the shape of his nostril here. So I'm going to go fix that. Okay, I want to show you what I did to fix it. I put my pattern back on and drew the shape of the nose back in. I was not, I needed to be a little bit bigger here, a little bit longer here. The nostril needed to be bigger. So now I'm just going back in with my base color. I'm not worried about painting over that dry brushing we did. And I'm coming up to the lines that I drew in here. I wasn't quite wide enough in a few areas. And I'm going to try not to paint over my lines, but I see I got some on that one anyway. Just reshape a little bit there. And I put just a tiny bit of some of our shading color right behind the ball of the nose. And put a little bit of a highlight there. And I want to put a little bit of a highlight out here. We want to go down the center of the nose with some highlight. So I'm going to do a back-to-back float, line there, line here, paint side to paint side of the brush so we can create a bright highlight down the nose. Now he's looking much better, I think. So I think I'm going to grab my wild berry out and put a little bit of float on the cheeks and the nose here. So work it into your brush with a little bit of water. This is going to be a soft float, nothing harsh or bright. It's going to brighten up what we've got here already, but the whole ball of his nose. To be red. And this will help you be able to shape your nose a little bit better as well. Remember, we can come back with our base flesh color and fix any areas that we don't like, so don't be stressing out about any of this color. I think while I have this color, I might float a little bit of this above the eye crease line here. We dry brush some in there, but let's just float a little bit up in there. And so this is where you can decide if you want to bring the rosy glow of your cheeks up onto his eyes, like give him some really rounded cheeks here. And I don't want that hard line over there, so I'm going to remove that. So So it might be easier to float from this direction because then you can get a soft line here. And create that little bit of rosy glow. His cheeks are puffed up. I don't want it to be up here in the lines of the eye, so if it goes up too high, I'm going to take that down. And we'll repeat this a couple of times. I'm going to dry this real quick. And bring that up. And on the nose, I really have a super small amount of paint on my brush. Not much at all. We're just laying in some extra bright color here. Anywhere where you feel like you've lost a little bit of it. You don't want to go over what's wet because you'll just lift. I lifted a little bit there. And so he's getting a much brighter look now. And we could actually put some of this underneath the lines up here for a little bit brighter look. Not too much. We don't want his face to turn pink by any means. No pink face. Okay. Again, if you get too much, you go back to the base color of the flesh, of the skin color. Let me erase these lines here, because I want to put a little bit of this color. Remember, we're using a very sheer amount of this. I think I'll mix a little bit of my base color in with it. Very, very sheer color, so you're mixing it very well with the paint in your brush. I think we'll give him a little bit of a glow through here, and maybe a little bit through his nose here. Just patting it in kind of, and taking the water edge of the brush, kind of pushing it around and blending it out and not letting it stay hard lines at all. We need to highlight on the nose here, so that is our base color and our white. Two base colors to one white. We need to get a little bit brighter on this edge. And in the center. And you might want to wait till that red is dry so you don't turn this pink. I actually think maybe a little bit of a highlight on the end of the nose here, on the ball of the nose. You still want it to be pink, but we're just going to put a little bit of a highlight there. Tiny little bit of shading right here at the nose. I've never had so much trouble painting a nose before. I've painted lots of Santa's noses, but I've never had as much trouble painting a nose as I have this nose, and that still does not look shaped right. I think the highlight needs to come down farther. And then I'm going to bring that pink over more. Again, I have just the teeniest, tiniest washes of color here in my brush. So let me get it just a tiny bit darker. Now you can use a more red color on the nose. I'm using a more pink color, but if you want a more red color, you can use some of the red that we used in the hat to get a little bit more of a red color. Grab some of the flesh color and see if I can't smooth this edge out a little bit. And up here. A little bit brighter through here. Okay, his nose is looking pretty good, I think. I think I want to add a little bit of highlight on his cheeks, and that was the base color in Snow White 2:1 for our highlight. And I'm just going to pity pat, keeping the paint always in a circular motion. So I'm going dab, 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 turning the brush around and patting it and blending it out as I pat it, because I have water in my brush, so it's going to make a bright little highlight like that. Just right in this one area on each cheek. I haven't decided if I'm going to put glasses on him yet or not. Okay. Okay, now you can brighten any of the highlights that you need to with just a little bit of Snow White. So I want a little bit of brightness out here. I'm not using hardly any paint. I'm going to put just a tiny bit underneath the eyes here, on those wrinkles, up on the tippy toe of the brush. Not using very much paint at all. We want to definitely do down the center of the nose here. And just a tiny bit on a couple of places on the wrinkles on the forehead. And then let's tap a little bit of Snow White on the cheek right here. Okay, give him that rosy glow. Okay, I think I'm going to leave his face right there. I'm going to touch up the nostrils here. Get some fresh paint out because I'm all dried up. So I'm going to mix a little bit of black and soft black and darken up my nostrils here. Shape them nicely. I feel like that nostril is just too far over. And I'm probably going to have to bring my base color here. A lot of base color there. Maybe take that nostril back a little bit, back this direction. His head is turned just slightly, so his nostrils don't have to be exactly the same. That's my wild berry there. Just trying to clean up the shape a little bit. So just adjust as you need to. I'll make sure that the line drawing is correct here. I don't feel like it's very correct at the moment. Okay. Touch that up. That looks better. Still needs another layer on his nose here. Okay, he's looking pretty good now. Okay, before we add the eyelashes and stuff on here, I want to do another soft float over the eye, just across the top of it here. I think I need to clean my finger off. I'm spreading paint where I don't want it. Okay, if you feel like you get it too far down into the eye, I don't feel like I did, but I'll show you anyway. Tap a little bit of white back in these areas on each side of the eye to brighten up the white of the eye just a little bit. And I think you'll be good. We're going to work on the eyelashes. And then we'll work on the fur up here. I'm not going to do the eyebrows until I do the fur. Well, actually, I could go ahead and do the eyebrows because I'm going to use a completely different brush for the eyebrows than I am the beard. So let's go ahead and put our eyebrows in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stroke in the eyebrows. So I'm going to use a 1 round brush, and we're going to start with just some lamp black. Thin this to a nice flow consistency by adding some water to the paint. And then we're just going to start forming where the eyebrow will go, and your eyebrow can be as bushy as you want it to be. This is under painting here, so don't feel like you have to get too detailed here and too perfect with anything. We're just creating the shape of the eyebrows right now. Okay. You know, Santa's got some bushy eyebrows. I could never paint my eyebrows in the same on each side, so here we go. It just never works out. I don't know why. One side always comes out completely different than the other side. This is just lamp black. Keep it a nice flowy consistency. Step on the tip of your brush. That way you won't get fat, thick blobs of paint anywhere. So there is the start of his eyebrow. He's definitely got some bushy eyebrows. Bushy, bushy, bushy. I think I'm going to want to take that line out a little bit with some of my base color. I don't want it to be such a hard line here. So I'm just going to take some of my base color, tap it in there, begin to cover up that line a little bit. I'll let that dry, and then I will come back and fix it. Okay, we're going to take that brush that's loaded with that black and grab some white, and we're going to make a dark gray here. Dark to medium gray. And we'll begin adding some of this color. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more white in there. And we'll add a little bit of this color. Remember, we're not going to cover up every single layer here. And if your gray is not showing up very well, that's okay. We'll add another layer of gray in here. So we'll be adding more white to our brush. Okay, add more white to your gray mix. Add a little water, get it inky consistency so it flows off of your brush nicely. And now we're starting to get a little bit more brightening on the too much paint. Eyebrows. Super fun. I'm pulling towards me here on this one. It's just a little bit easier for me. And this is the lighter. We want to try not to cover up all of your other layers. You're just putting a few strokes in here. I need a little bit more water in my mix. Stay up on the tip of the brush. You get those nice fine little strokes in there. Okay. I'm going to wash this brush out because I want to go to my detail liner now. I'm going to do just white. I'm going to put some fresh white out. I want to thin this down with some clean water. Do not thin it down with your dirty water. You'll just be tinting your paint. And I probably didn't need to thin mine down. My bottle of paint is so thin already. So now we're going to add some detail, fine little strokes in here. Up on the tip of the brush, and give a little curl to the eyebrow hairs if you want to. Don't just make them straight. Let's try to give them some kind of Santa Clausy look here. So we'll do this a couple of times on here to get his eyebrows more white. We definitely do not want them to be black eyebrows or dark gray eyebrows, but we need that developing of layers to keep it a little more dimensional and not just one color. And I want you to have fun. Give Santa some fun eyebrows. So I want this layer to dry. Okay, that layer's dry, so let's go with another one. And let's start giving these eyebrows some a little bit of, ooh, that's a lot of paint. Giving some wild ones that, you know, that's too dark. Too thick. It was too thick. I want to give him some really fun ones now. And I'm going to start bringing some a little bit down here underneath the eyebrow. And you'll want to do this until you can see the white better than you can see the black. So it might take a couple more layers up on the very tip, defining the shape of the eyebrow. Up on the tip. A bit more water in my paint. Very tiptoe of your brush here. You know how those old men eyebrows are. They're wiry and crazy. They have a mind of their own. It's a good start to those bushy eyebrows. I'll let this layer dry. I think I'm going to do at least one more layer on here and see how that looks. Okay, I think I've got his cheeks and everything where I want them. Now, I wasn't liking the way his nose looked, so I laid my pattern back on, but I flipped it over and traced the shape of this nostril over here and then just painted it in to match this one, because originally I was going to have his face turned away from us a little bit, so we would see, you know, mostly this half of the nose, but it wasn't working out that way with the way that I painted the eyes in. So that is how you can remedy that. Your line drawing will be correct when you get it. It won't have that, but if you're ever doing one and the eyes are looking more at you, but the nose is like turned away, just flip your pattern over and add the lines there. So we're going to shade underneath the eyebrows now and finish those out. And we're going to do our mix of our skin tone and sable brown, which is 2 of our natural buff and 1 sable brown. And we just want to get a little bit of, I don't want this to be a solid line, so I'm going to zigzag it a little bit and bring it up into the eyebrow just a little bit. we can come back in with some of our white and make that line not quite so solid. We'll just break it up with some white hairs coming out from that shaded area. Really fine, thin hairs. A little bit of water in your paint if your paint is not inky consistency. Very, very, very tip of your brush, and if you have your paint the right consistency, it will just flow right off of your brush. And then we can blend that right into our shading here, and it will not look like his eyebrows are separated from the rest of him. So just a few little strokes is all you need up on the tippy toe. If they're too thick, you either have too much paint or you're getting too much pressure on your brush. So just adjust by thinning your paint down and staying up on the tip, less pressure, and that will help. Alright, so we're going to work on the eyes now. So we want to put the eyelashes and stuff in. I'm going to continue to use my detail liner and some black paint. Now you don't have to use a liner and do this. You can use an Identa pen. This one is a dual tipped one, has a smaller nib on this end and a fatter one on this end. I do sell these on my website. Or you can use a Micron pen. I would recommend a 005 and do all of your detail work with that. Mine's just about worn down to nothing, I think. But I'm going to use my detail liner and thin my paint down to inky consistency. And I'm going to outline the upper part of the eye and bring a little eyebrow or eyelash off of the edge right there. And he doesn't have to have a ton of eyelashes. Let me get a little bit more paint on my brush. But I do want to stay up on the tip for this first layer and just pull some out. Like this. I'm going to put some across his eye, reflection in his eye of some eyelashes, and we'll reshade that and push those back underneath there. So I'm going to the other eye. Okay, and just a few eyelashes in here. They'll come straight up in the center and go that way. And then a few reflecting in the eye there. Okay, down here on the bottom eye, we don't want to line the whole bottom of the eye. So we're just going to go part way. Stay up on the tip of your brush. Grab just a little bit more paint here. A little bit more water in my brush. Okay, and this line across the top, I want to darken it. I want to keep it thin here, but I want it to get fatter as it comes across the eye. A little bit fatter as it comes across. Let it flick off. And then a few more eyelashes in here. Straight up here. Just a few. Don't get carried away with your eyelashes here. And Santa's eyelashes don't need to be super long either. Okay, and on the bottom eye, we'll give just a few eyelashes out here at the corner. Okay. And then I'm going to take my little chisel brush and my really thin black paint, like we did earlier. It's like a wash of paint, very, very sheer, and just one more time go underneath the eye. And that will set everything. Might do a couple more eyelashes down here. Teeny tiny little strokes there. Don't have near enough moisture in my paint. If it won't come off of your brush easily, it's not got enough moisture. When you're using a detail liner, you need that little bit of moisture in your brush. And you don't have to outline that part of the eye if you don't want to. I just want to give his eye a little bit more definition on this side. I'm going to grab a little bit of white in my brush, mixing it with that black to make a gray color. I want a little bit of a line here. And this one's a little dark, so I'll go back with a little bit of white in there. Looks dark on the camera shot, but in front of me it doesn't look too awful dark. Grab some of my skin tone color and just take that down just a little bit. You can really play around and tweak on these eyes. Okay, I'm going to tap some white back around the eye there. I feel like it kind of lost its little shine of white. That's a little bit too much right there. That's really a lot too much, so let me just remove that. Try it again. Little tiny, teeny tiny little dabs here. And I think this will finish off the eyes. We'll be ready to move on to the hat now. So when you wide angle out, and you can see his face a little bit better. He's a cute little Santa, and you can put some white eyelashes on him, or some gray ones to give him a little bit more. Let's just add a few light gray ones in there. not sure that helped, but after you do this, you have to redo your line because your gray is going to be in your line here, and you want this to be a solid line up here. More water. I'm trying not to overwork these eyelashes. I don't want them to get, but this side's not quite as long as that side, so I'm going to bring a couple up a little higher. And that one's almost too high, so I'm going to erase that one back just a little bit, shorten it up. Okay, I'm going to call this face done. Alright, I think Santa's face is looking pretty good. I may come back and add a little bit more of a blend of color on the top of the nose so it's not quite so pink up there. I want it to be more pink down here. But for now we're going to move on to the hat band and the ball here. And we're just going to get an undercoat of some paint on here. And I am painting this in with Oyster Beige. Just want to follow the shape of our, let's see, this went up over here if I remember rightly. I should probably grab my pattern. That would be really helpful. So, put my pattern over here where I can see it. This is just an undercoat of paint here. So, and then the hat comes around. It's the top part of the hat kind of comes over this side of the fur, so you won't be seeing a lot over here. We'll get the hair put in, and then the ball. I'm just going to loosely put that in. We just want to make sure it has that little lift on the hat that's on the pattern there. And then it comes around like this. Okay, just a little undercoating to get us started where our hat is going to go. And then we're going to have hair coming out here, so this area where the skin tone is not quite dark enough, we're not going to worry too much about that because we'll have some hair coming out in here and there. Okay, so let's work on the hat. We're going to work on the hat, and we're going to add some shading on the hat here. And you know how we did the mix of Napa Red and soft black for our snowflakes? We are going to use those same colors to shade on our hat with. So we're going to mix those colors. And I just like to brush mix, so I'm going to grab some Napa Red and some soft black. Not too much soft black. We don't want it to be too dark too quick. We'll see if this Napa Red will show up with just a little bit of soft black in it first. Just as long as we can establish where we're going with our shading colors, then we can come back and intensify all of these areas. And we're going to have some wrinkles coming up right here. One there, and then another one right here. Let's vary the heights on them. We don't want them to be the same height, and we don't want them to connect to that wrinkle right there. So let me zoom you in here and change the tint of my light a little bit to see if you can see that. A little bit of shading there and there. It's not super bright. Napa Red with just a little bit of that black in there, that soft black. Okay, we want to go around the hat here with this mix. I'm not going to worry if I get into my fur a little bit, because we are going to be stippling in our fur here in a minute. I go all the way across, and a little bit up this way, bring it down to meet it. This is a V, so we want to round it and get a nice shape there. And like I said, the first little bit you're not going to see, so a little bit right next to the ball here. And make sure your lines that you have coming out there are dry. So, trying to see what lighting is better for you to see this shading. We can see it a little bit above the hat here. So let's darken that. That was just with Napa Red and a little bit of soft black. So we're going to add a lot more soft black this time. And I did an equal amount this time, so that's the color that it was the first time, and then here it is the second time. It's a little bit richer. So we'll come back in here and do this little section here, this little wrinkle. And it's a V, so we're going to round out as we come down with that. So now you can see that much better. We're going to go around the hat. I'm using a 1/2 inch angle brush, laying my brush flat, giving soft pressure, have my brush loaded with paint and water. And I'm not trying to get it all at once, I'm just pity-patting it along, bringing it together. And then we'll go into this corner here with a little bit, and we're going to round that out as we come out. Try not to get into your float over there, because you don't want to remove it. And then I'm going to come in here and do these little wrinkles. Not sure how well we'll end up seeing those in the end. And then a little bit here. Ideally, you want to wait for your little wrinkle things to be completely dry before you do that. So now we can really see the shading on there. I'm going to erase my graphite line over here. And then I'm thinking I might do a little bit of shading in that dented area there. Let's go ahead and add that in. We'll do our little bit of mix first. And we'll just come right here in this area that's kind of dented in, and we want it to fade away and be soft out here. So a little bit of shading right there. No hard lines coming off of the edge, so use your finger if you need to. Okay, I think I will also shade a little bit on this edge. instead of having that highlighted, I think we'll have it shaded. And then you'll repeat this. Ideally, you will let it dry and repeat it. Not to do it straight away. You do want to let it dry. I think right here I want to walk this shading around the hat here. I don't want it to be so tight and controlled, so we're going to walk it out by just bringing that paint out into the water part, the water that our brush laid water and paint down. So now we're just bringing that paint out into that water area a little bit and just creating a little bit wider of a float right there. I think I will take my mop brush and kind of soften that. I had some little hard lines in there. I'm not a fan of hard lines in my floats. So let's take a look at the hat now. So now we're starting to see some more definition in the hat. So we're going to be ready to start adding in our highlights. And actually, this edge right here should be highlighted, not shaded. So I am going to remove that shading right there, because this comes over the hat right here. So we don't want that to be painted in. So I'm just using some water and my white tri eraser. You can get this eraser on my website. Remove that. You do not want to scrub this hard. You're just removing that layer of paint that we put down for the shadow. So do not get crazy wild with this. You will go all the way down to your black paint, and then you will have to repaint your whole hat in, at least a good section of it. So we don't want this part shaded, so we're just going to clean that up. And let me erase it off of the face here. This is a very easy way to remove paint if it hasn't cured. If it's something you just painted, you have time to fix it. If it's something that's been dry for several hours or several days, you can't. You can't do it this way. You'll have to do it by just painting over it. But invaluable tool in your painting stash. Okay, so that looks much better, I think. Okay,